Hey, what's going on, guys? Kalamazi here, and with Crucible of Storms launching next week, today we're going to be talking about Crucible of Storms from a Warlock perspective. While it is only a 2-boss raid, both fights appear to favor ranged DPS over melee, and have a decent bit of adds present in both. We'll be talking about the specs that I feel will best perform on each fight from a Warlock perspective, Azerite traits, and potential talent builds as well. And before we get too far into that, if you're interested in any of the weak auras or add-ons you see here, I'll have a link to my Twitch where I stream all of our progression, as well as my Discord in the description where you can acquire them all. Now, while I do have actual PTR footage of Restless Cabal testing, I sadly do not have any footage of Unat, which is the final boss, as they only held one testing session for him before concluding COS testing as a whole. If you're looking for actual guides to the fights, I'll place links in the description to both. We are still, however, able to take a look at the fight's mechanics and can pretty easily decipher which specs and traits will be the go-to for said encounter, so let's jump right into it. The Restless Cabal is the first boss of 2 in Crucible of Storms, and it's effectively a 2-target add-cleave based fight. Both bosses need to be killed within a few seconds of each other, however DPS needs to be controlled on both until the end, as pushing them to certain thresholds at the same time will cause multiple events to trigger. 75%, 50%, and 25% are the health thresholds for each boss, and every time a rune is triggered, they will also summon an add or multiple adds in addition to an ability that the specific rune brings with it. Zaxxas, as we're going to call him, will summon a single add that needs to have his terrifying echo cast interrupted, but can only be interrupted once the add reaches 1 HP. It will then slowly regenerate health until it must be interrupted again in the same cycle. This add is a decent way to proc Flashpoint if you're running said trait, and will also provide more procs over the fight's duration. The add will despawn after 3 minutes as well. They are also a great target for Havoc and generating high rolling Havoc stacks, even when they were generating health. The fact that the boss will likely alternate between empowering runes means that you will have at least one of these adds active for the duration of the fight, which makes Havoc and rolling Havoc an exceptional Azerite choice here. Fthul, which is the other boss, will summon 3 adds instead of 1 whenever he activates a rune, but these are a little different from the adds Zaxxas spawns. 3 Eldritch Abominations will spawn every time Fthul activates a rune, and they have a very large health pool. They will all begin casting an ability called Witness the End that has a 9-second cast and can be interrupted. Upon completion, it will do a moderate raid-wide damage while also killing the add. The general idea here is to interrupt 2 of the adds while allowing 1 to finish its cast. This will give the raid time to be healed to full once 1 dies, and then resume the process. These adds do indeed take damage and make for exceptional flashpoint targets as well. These adds, in addition to the actual add that Zaxxas spawns, mean that we will typically have at least 1 target that is able to proc flashpoint for the majority of the fight. Depending on each boss's remaining health percentage and timing, they also provide additional targets for Havoc and rolling Havoc stacks if you have access to the trait and don't want to push the other boss just yet. The damage that you deal to them with Havoc is pretty much irrelevant, but the intellect bonus you gain from rolling Havoc is certainly powerful, especially with 2 or more rolling Havoc pieces. There will most likely be times when one boss is close to phasing but you have Havoc off CD, and then these adds will come in very handy. As mentioned, between the single add that Zaxxas spawns, the 3 Fthul spawns, and the boss starting health pools, you certainly have many different places where you can easily proc Flashpoint. Having 2 or more Flashpoint pieces effectively provides a personal bloodlust for the duration of the proc, and when combined with rolling Havoc, it makes for some exceptionally strong cleave-based burst windows. Crashing Chaos is also a strong choice for the fight, as it does greatly increase your burst during CDs, which will also be supplemented with a Havoc window and hopefully some rolling Havoc traits. The downside to Crashing Chaos here, however, is that it is tied to your 3-minute Infernal CD, which means that it's essentially non-impactful for 2.5 minutes. Other traits such as Chaotic Inferno, Chaos Shards, and stat-based traits like Treacherous Covenant are good choices here, but this to me truly looks like an exceptional rolling Havoc Flashpoint encounter, much like half of Battle of Dazar lore. The set that I look to bring to the fight will initially most likely consist of multiple rolling Havoc pieces and Flashpoint pieces, with potentially a bit of Treacherous Covenant and Crashing Chaos depending on the available traits and pieces that I actually have. The normal destruction talent build that we have run for basically all of VOD is my first choice for the fight as well, running Flashover, Reverse Entropy, Cataclysm, Supremacy, and Dark Soul Instability. If you're looking to play Affliction on the fight, Racking Brilliance is an amazing all-around choice for basically every fight. Inevitable Demise gains a tremendous amount on fights where multiple targets are present, and there are certainly multiple targets present here. Cascading Calamity is more of a single target trait in a sense, but we really aren't focusing down a good portion of the ads to spawn, we're really just using them as agony targets. When the time comes to actually kill them, having Cascading Calamity up is a strong option as well. With it being a multi-target fight, Sudden Onset also gains a decent bit more value than on single target fights, so depending on your available Azerite pieces, it might be a strong option. Once again, Treacherous Covenant and stat-based traits are also solid choices here as well, but be aware of Covenant's actual downside. As far as Affliction Talents go, I could see us running either Siphon Life or Writhe in Agony here over Absolute Corruption. The thing with Absolute Corruption is, while there are certainly a good bit of ads present, Permanent Corruption is effectively padding on the 3 Abomination ads, and seeing as how it is not tied to ID anymore, thus saving GCDs for meaningful refreshing, things like that, I don't think it will be a very good choice. Both Writhe in Agony and Siphon Life bring with them their own set of benefits, such as Siphon Life providing more single target damage. Writhe in Agony gives you less GCDs to manage, which means you have more time for other casts. If I were playing Affliction here, I would initially start with Siphon Life and go from there, really trying to get a feel for dot management and other mechanics. Unfortunately, Demonology is sort of in a rough spot here, as it does not really have any Azerite traits as strong as Affliction or Destruction that provide a bonus to multi-target based fights. It does not really have any abilities outside of Doom or Stack Cleave that provide a real bonus either. I do feel that Destruction and Affliction are better choices here for progression, but Demonology is still certainly playable. An Azerite build consisting of Baleful Invocation pieces, 2 or more Explosive Potential pieces, 1 Demonic Meteor piece, and most likely 1 Treacherous Covenant or Supreme Commander / stat-based trait is what I would look for here. I would also stick with the normal Demonology Talent build that we have run for most of BOD if Demonology was your choice. Demonic Consumption would be nice for certain push phases with it being on such a short CD, but as mentioned, I feel that both Destruction and Affliction are better choices for progression overall. In the end, I feel that Destruction will be your best choice for Restless Cabal progression. Flashpoint is certainly abusable here, as well as Rolling Havoc, which boosts the spec's overall power level tremendously. Affliction would be my second choice, as the inevitable demise cheese you can get here is certainly powerful, but I do not feel it's nearly as strong as Destruction's overall potential. Demonology is the spec that I sadly expect to perform the worst, mainly due to the actual structure of the fight and the current state of Demonology's toolkit and Azerite traits. If we had some actual way to bring a substantial amount of council-based cleave, I think it would be a strong choice, but sadly we just don't really have much of that at the moment. The second and final boss in Crucible of Storms is Unat, which is a 3-phase encounter. Sadly, I do not have any actual testing footage of him, but we can still review some of the core mechanics of the fight and talk about which spec I feel is best suited for said fight. Phase 1 lasts until the boss reaches 70% health. The Tempest Caller, Voidstone, and Trident of Deep Ocean from the Restless Cabal fight are actually all present at the start of the encounter and must be used throughout by the players to deal with certain mechanics that are present. An Undying Guardian ad spawns initially at 30 seconds into the fight, and then appears to spawn roughly every 45 or so seconds after the previous ad. These ads have to be kept 10 yards or more away from the boss, otherwise the boss takes 99% reduced damage. Once they reach 1 health, they will begin regenerating health very similar to the way they did on the first boss, so getting them to 25% and then ignoring them until you can use the Tempest Caller ability to kill multiples initially seems best. From a destruction perspective, you really won't have any issues proccing Flashpoint for the majority of Phase 1 just based off of boss health, but the ads spawning ever so frequently also help with its uptime. They, once again, are also great targets for Havoc with Rolling Havoc. The timing of the ad spawning, as mentioned, appears to be about 45 seconds after the previous ad, so you will have a bit of time where Havoc is sitting off CD, but the cleave damage you bring as destruction with Rolling Havoc and a high Flashpoint uptime is exceptionally powerful here. Phase 2 begins when Unat reaches 70%. The boss will continue to spawn Undying Guardian ads throughout the phase, as well as a set of new ads called Primordial Mindbenders. 3 spawn at a time and begin to cast a spell that needs to be interrupted. Once the ad dies, they then spawn a few smaller swarming void spawn ads from themselves. These ads, however, explode for a decent bit of raid-wide damage once killed, so their death needs to be planned with the use of the Tempest Caller relic as well. Each set of Mindbenders spawn roughly every minute or so in conjunction with the smaller ads they spawn and the Undying Guardians means you should have a good bit of opportunities to proc Flashpoint in Phase 2 as well. Obviously, they are also amazing Havoc targets, and their spawn time actually lines up pretty well with every other Havoc window you should have. The final phase begins at 40% and lasts until the boss is dead. There are no longer any more Mindbender adds that spawn here, but the Undying Guardians do continue to spawn on what appears to be the same timer, thus still providing Flashpoint and rolling Havoc targets. It is important to realize here, however, is that it will effectively be the only real mob which will proc Flashpoint, as the boss is well below 80% health, so be sure to get your Immolate up ASAP. The normal Destruction Talent build that you have run for basically all of BOD is my first choice for the fight, running Flashover, Reverse Entropy, Cataclysm, Supremacy, and DSI. I am certainly looking at running a mix of rolling Havoc, Flashpoint, and probably crashing Chaos traits here, just like on the Restless Cabal, as you simply cannot deny the power of rolling Havoc and Flashpoint. Crashing Chaos is also an option, but like we discussed before, it's tied to a 3-minute CD, and with it being a Flashpoint fight as well, loses a bit of value in a sense. Other traits such as Chaotic Inferno, Chaos Shards, and stat-based traits like Treacherous Covenant are also solid choices. If I were to play Affliction on Unat, I believe I would start with our single target build running Siphon Life, as I don't feel dot management will be as hectic as on the Restless Cabal, and the fight is more single target based in a sense. I would really look towards running Azerite traits such as Racking Brilliance, Inevitable Demise, and Cascading Calamity here. Demonology is once again in an odd spot of sorts, as it is an ag cleave based fight in a sense, which does not favor the spec nearly as much as it does Affliction or Destruction. If I were to play Demonology here nevertheless, I would run the typical build that we've run for most of BOD shown here. A set consisting of at least 2 Explosive Potential, 1 Baleful Invocation, 1 Demonic Meteor would be where I'd want to start. I would then look to acquire as many additional Baleful Invocation pieces that I could, or other strong stat-based ones such as Supreme Commander or Treacherous Covenant. In the end, I also feel this is going to be another Destruction-based progression fight. You just simply cannot deny the power of Destruction and Havoc on progression fights such as the ones we see in COS, and rolling Havoc / Flashpoint traits with adds make it an even stronger choice. I do feel that Affliction is a decent choice here as well, as the spec does have traits and talents that also cater to fights of this nature, but I feel it will be overshadowed by Destruction. Demonology is an option as well, however you sadly just aren't bringing the toolkit that Destruction or even Affliction brings to the fight as a whole. I do feel that you can play any of the 3 specs on each fight, but Destruction does appear to be king initially heading into Week 1 COS from a progression standpoint. Thanks for watching, guys. With COS only a few days away, I hope this helped you all get a better grasp on how Warlocks are looking heading into it. Let me know what your thoughts are on COS, and if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below, and I'll be sure to get back to you. If you want to see more WoW content and help support the channel, smash those like, share, and subscribe buttons, as your support really helps. Thanks so much, guys, and I'll see y'all in a few days in Crucible or on stream. Peace.